bisa menggunakan AI ini dapat bermanfaat. Mungkin itu saja yang dapat saya sampaikan. Semoga acara ini dapat bermanfaat bagi kita semua dan juga bagi masyarakat luas. Baik, terima kasih. Saya ucapkan wabillahil taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Next, we will hear next for the Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, Faculty of Agriculture, Professor Philly Pratama, MSc Honoris PhD. Professor Philly, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, Dr. Nurza. How are you? It has been 2 years that we haven't met.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I heard that time that you gave a very good presentation. I was there at that time. So today's, thank you very much that you will be here. Okay.
Alright.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's with great pleasure that I welcome all of you to today's webinar titled AI for Educators, Practical Application to Enhance Teaching. We are very honored to have you join us in this meaningful discussion on how artificial intelligence is shaping and supporting the future of education. First of all, allow me to convey an apology from our Dean, Professor Muslim, that he cannot be here due to he had a meeting at the same time. He attending in person or virtually would take this full advantage to this webinar. First and foremost, allow me to express our sincere gratitude to our distinguished guest, Dr. Nuzal Eviana Binti Ghazali, from Center for Engineering Education, University Teknologi Malaysia, for being with us today. Her expertise and insights in education innovation and in AI implementation will no doubt bring immense value to this session. At this time, I would like also to express my thanks to our moderator, Dr. Rizky Tirta Adiguna, whose guidance will help us through this discussion ensure a dynamic and interactive session. We hope this webinar will not only broaden our understanding about AI in education, also we can empower this webinar for our next step for our innovation in our classroom, because in August we will start a new semester for the new academic year. I hope this webinar regarding AI will help all educators to create or to prepare slides for teaching very well. Okay, without further ado, let us begin our session by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today's webinar with the entitle of AI for Educators, Practical Application to Enhance Teaching is officially open. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for your welcoming remarks. Before we start our event today, let us take a moment to praise so that this event may run smoothly and be meaningful for all of us. We invite Brother Anugraduate Chandaru to lead the prayer for today's event.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dr. Nurzal Eviana serta para hadirin yang saya hormati. Sebelumnya izinkanlah saya untuk memimpin bacaan doa ini sesuai ajaran agama Islam. Bagi yang beragama lain, harap menyesuaikan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين من الشاكرين حمد النائمين حمد يوافي نعمه ويكافي مزيده يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم وعظيم سلطانك اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا ولوالدينا وارحمنا كما ربيانا صغيرا Allahumma ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, segala puji dan syukur kami panjatkan kehadirat-Mu atas segala nikmat dan rahmat-Mu, sehingga kami dapat berkumpul pada hari ini dalam keadaan sehat walafiat. Ya Allah, jadikanlah acara ini sebagai sarana untuk memperluas ilmu, menambah wawasan, dan mempererat ukhuwah di antara kami. Berikanlah kelancaran dalam setiap rangkaian acara, dan anugerahkan kepada pemateri kemampuan untuk menyampaikan ilmu dengan jelas, bermanfaat, dan penuh keberkahan. Ya Allah, Tuhan yang Maha Mengetahui, bukalah hati dan pikiran kami agar mudah menerima ilmu, mampu memahaminya dengan baik, dan dapat mengamalkannya dalam kehidupan nyata. Lindungilah kami dari ilmu yang tidak bermanfaat, hati yang tidak khusyuk, dan jiwa yang tidak bersyukur. Ya Allah, jadikanlah ilmu yang kami peroleh hari ini sebagai ilmu yang bermanfaat, yang mendekatkan kami kepadamu, dan menjadikan kami pribadi yang lebih baik, serta berguna bagi masyarakat. اللهم بارك لنا في هذا الاجتماع واجعله اجتماعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا مأسوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا معنا ولا منا شقيا ومحروما ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you for guidance in our prayer reading today. Next is the presentation of certificates for the speakers and the moderators. Please accept this certificate from us, Professor Dr. Nurzal Efiana binti Ghazali. Let's capture this moment in 3, 2, 1. Next, please accept this certificate from us for Dr. Rizky Tirta Adiguna STPMSI. Let's capture this moment in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next is the documentation or photo session with the dean and the research person. Everyone is invited to turn on their cameras and prepare their best smile so that we can capture them in our documentation today. Please further related commit to be able to guide the documentation of this event. Let's capture this moment in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next is our highly anticipated main event, which is the presentation of the webinar material. We are honored to have with us a highly inspiring speaker, Dr. Nurzal Efiana binti Ghazali from the Center for Engineering Education, University Teknologi Malaysia. We now invite our speaker to begin the presentation. Dr. Nurzal Efiana binti Ghazali.
Okay, thank you for the MC because I can see MC from here. Um, it's quite
Apa
weird
kabar?
because
Apa
yeah,
kabar Dr. Yana?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Jadi saya minta izin sebagai moderator
Yeah.
untuk kegiatan ini dan dipersilakan menggunakan bahasa, mau bahasa Inggris, bahasa Melayu, bahasa Inggris juga oke, bahasa Indonesia juga oke, bahasa Melayu juga oke. Sebelumnya Dr. Yana, mudah-mudahan sehat. Saya ingin menyampaikan sedikit profil dari Dr. Yana kepada audiens. Dr. Yana, nama lengkapnya Dr. Nurzal Efiana binti Ghazali. Ya. Beliau tenaga pengajar di Universitas Teknologi Malaysia, menyelesaikan Bachelor of Engineering tahun 2007, kemudian Master of Engineering di Shibaura Institute of Technology di Jepang, kemudian PhD di Universitas Teknologi Malaysia, selesai pada tahun 2016. Sejak tahun 2009 hingga 2024, beliau telah memperoleh sekitar 24 award. Jadi kalau dirata-ratakan hampir setiap tahun itu memperoleh award. Beliau lahir pada bulan Mei tahun 1984 dan alhamdulillah telah memiliki 4 orang putra-putri. Terakhir beliau mendapat award Academic Advisor Award pada tahun 2024, kemudian memperoleh silver medal di International Conference of Educational Research and Innovation Award Internasional, dan juga 2024 beliau memperoleh award kategori Dissemination of Knowledge Award. Pada kesempatan ini Dr. Yana diberikan kesempatan sekitar 70 menit atau 1 jam 10 menit untuk menyampaikan materi. Kemudian dilanjutkan Q&A sekitar 15 menit dengan audiens yang ada. Kepada Dr. Yana, waktu dan tempat dipersilakan.
Ya, terima kasih untuk pengenalan daripada Dr. Rizky. Lebih mesra saya panggil Pak Rizky. Lama tidak kita berjumpa. Pertama kali saya ingin mohon maaf atas keterlewatan. Okay, baru sahaja tiba dari Kuala Lumpur. Sedikit macet. Jadi lag sikit. Izinkan saya untuk menyampaikan material saya di dalam bahasa Inggeris ya. Suara saya dapat didengar dengan jelas?
Dapat terdengar dengan jelas.
Alhamdulillah. Okey, skrinnya dapat dilihat slide saya?
Dapat dilihat, Dokter.
Okey. Okey. So inshallah, today I'm going to proceed with my sharing session with the title given, AI for Educators, Practical Application to Enhance Teaching. So as been introduced, I'm from Center for Engineering Education. This center is a multidisciplinary center. I can say my originality is come from Electrical Engineering Faculty. Okay, the picture in this first page is actually participants during practical workshop, okay, for AI. So they have the hands-on activity during this session. Inshallah, maybe one day we can have face-to-face training session so that is more enjoy, okay, compared to the online. So today you can just how AI can be implemented in the teaching and learning. Okay, so I'm actually now is a certified trainer by the Ministry of Human Resources Malaysia. So I've traveled a lot to Philippines, Indonesia, and as well in Malaysia to give a training in learning. Okay, so I can say that I focus on the learning and development strategies currently. Okay, and I am one of the master trainer for the AI Ready ASEAN program under ASEAN Foundation. So beside AI, I also give a training in the listed courses like curriculum design, course design, competency-based training, project-based learning, alternative assessment, interactive learning, design thinking for problem solving, and Gen AI in education. So basically, I can say that these courses are related to each other. Okay, so today I designed my session where my participants, okay, you can get things that I can say. After this session, I am expecting that you can get the idea how to design classroom activity or lesson competence that effectively integrate Gen AI tools. And then I hope that you can assess the potential challenges and limitation in adopting Gen AI for teaching and learning. And the most important thing, you can reflect on ethical consideration and formulate strategies to ensure responsibility use of AI in education. So today I'm going to share what I've done in my class. All right. So I really love technology to be integrated in my teaching and learning. So this is my teaching experience since 2016 until 2025. So I've teach 16 courses. So for your information, all courses I integrate technology, and currently I use AI. So you can see it's a various of subject from the generic subject to a very specific electrical engineering subject. So I'm going to share my experience. All right, I'm not an expert, but just sharing whatever that I have. And in this session, I put it in different section. So I'm going to start with educational principle so that you can understand how I design the class such that. And then after the educational principle, I'll share how AI can be integrated in your class. Okay. So we will start with the educational principle. Right. So as you can see here, I think majority of us as an educator, when we were students, right, we learn using whiteboard, blackboard, overhead projector, right? So OHP. So during our study, the lecturer at the in front of us use the OHP to write on that. Okay, however, this is the current learning environment, right? You can see that they are connecting to the sensor, they are connecting to the machine. So here it is actually a gap between our own experience when we're students and the current generation. So we need to make a move. If not, we cannot understand our students. When we cannot understand our students, it's very difficult for us to get the learning in our classroom happen. Okay. So now, right, I want to ask you.
Tolong gantiin dia. Hampir. Aku merasa.
Okay. Can you go to the chat area and there is one link. Please click the link, or you can scan this QR code to join this class point, because I want you to write what is learning. Okay, take your time to join class point.
I cannot write anything.
Cannot write anything?
Yeah, cannot.
Yeah, you cannot write anything. Because I didn't open yet.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
thank you.
okay, all right. We wait for others to join the class point. Wait, I need to restart my PowerPoint because it suddenly closed. Okay, now I open for you to answer what is learning. So in your opinion, okay, what is actually learning? Okay, I'm going to open the answer. Right. Is there anyone still writing? Because I want to close the submission. Please let me know if you're still writing. Okay, I hope everyone is ready. Submit your answer, okay? Because I'm going to close the submission. Okay, now I'm going to use AI to help me to summarize your answer. Okay, based on the participants, okay, we can see that majority of you mentioned that learning is a process of gaining knowledge or skill, acquiring knowledge through experience, study or teaching, understanding and transferring knowledge, and interactive activity involving various methods. All right, so this is, I can say, a summary that we can get from your answer. All right, so let's take a look. Okay, the definition, okay, by reference. So learning is actually a change in behavior. Okay, and then the change is a result of experience. So someone experienced that, and then it made a change of his behavior, and the change is sustainable. All right, so this is learning, meaning this is the reference, okay, I took from this reference. So basically, when we talk about learning, it's about a change, right? And the change should be sustainable. So we need to think what happened to our students. We need to think what happened to our class, right? Because I can say that majority of students, when they go to the next semester, they will forget about what happened in the last semester, right? Sometimes they can't bring into the next course what they have learned before, right? So understanding the meaning of learning is very important so that we can get our own strategy to make it happen. Okay, so as an educator, we need to make sure that when we give a lecture, learning is happen. So how can we measure that the learning is happen? We need to assess there is a change in our students in the behavior. All right, so next in my screen, I see that there is a blue with the knowledge. How about your view? Do you see that? Or your
Yes.
so
We
okay,
can see.
let me try to stop it first. I do not know, but I think this one is from Zoom. Maybe someone, because in my second screen, even though I close my PowerPoint, there is still a word over there. Okay. So I do not know how to remove the then I can say there's someone removing. All right, thank you for that. Okay. During the learning process, okay, as an educator, we have two types of educators, type A and type B. So let's reflect ourselves which type we are. The first, the model of A, where we call it as a pour it in model, or model B, keep it flowing model. All right, so please reflect ourselves which model that we use in our class. Okay, I have one video, right? Let me know if you can't hear the sound.
Today's read aloud is about two best friends, a minnow and a tadpole.
Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Okay.
Practically inseparable until the tadpole grows legs and decides to explore the world beyond the pond. Fish is Fish. Written and illustrated by Leo Leone. At the edge of the woods, there was a pond. And there a minnow and a tadpole swam among the weeds. They were inseparable friends. One morning, the tadpole discovered that during the night he had grown 2 little legs. "Look," said triumphantly. "Look, I am a frog." "Nonsense," said the minnow. "How could you be a frog if only last night you were a little fish just like me?" They argued and argued until finally the tadpole said, "Frogs are frogs and fish is fish, and that's that." In the weeks that followed, the tadpole grew tiny front legs and his tail got smaller and smaller. And then one fine day, a real frog now, he climbed out of the water and onto the grassy bank. The minnow too had grown and had become a full-fledged fish. He often wondered where his 4-footed friend had gone. But days and weeks went by and the frog did not return. Then one day, with a happy splash that shook the weeds, the frog jumped into the pond. "Where have you been?" asked the fish excitedly. "I have been about the world, hopping here and there," said the frog. "And I have seen extraordinary things." "Like what?" asked the fish. "Birds," said the frog mysteriously. "Birds." And he told the fish about the birds who had wings and 2 legs and many, many colors. As the frog talked, his friend saw the birds fly through his line like large feathered fish. "What else?" asked the fish impatiently. "Cows," said the frog. "Cows. They have 4 legs, horns, eat grass, and carry pink bags of milk." "And people," said the frog. "Men, women, children." And he talked and talked until it was dark in the pond. But the picture in the fish's mind was full of lights and colors and marvelous things, and he couldn't sleep. Ah, if he could only jump about like his friend and see that wonderful world. And so the days went by. The frog had gone, and the fish just lay there dreaming about birds in flight, grazing cows, and those strange animals all dressed up that his friend called people. One day, he finally decided that come what may, he too must. All right. So from this video, now I'm going to talk about the constructive alignment. So from this video, does it happen in our class? Do you think that when we give something to the students, we imagine something else? All right. But the students, they imagine something else because we have a different level of knowledge actually. Right. So this is how important the constructive alignment so that we can talk at the same wavelength. So in this case, frog is like teacher, right? In the class, when we put it in the class context, that frog is like a teacher, okay? And fish is like our students, right? So the misconception is actually happen in the classroom. I think majority of the class happen. If we didn't, what we call it, assess our students to make sure that the constructive alignment is actually there in our classroom. So this is the importance of constructive alignment. So I'm going to talk about the constructive alignment after this, after I explain about the learning process. Okay, so we need to know how learning happen.
So the first one, our student will perceive receiving actively recording information or knowledge. So in our class, when we deliver to the students, first they will receive that, all right? So after that, we try to understand it. Okay. If we didn't put a scaffold or things that help them to understand it, then that will happen same to the fish is fish story, right? So this one is very important, how we want to make sure that we are in the same wavelength of understanding. Okay, the third one is once they understand it, they will store as an internal processing. So you just imagine if we didn't check their understanding during the second stage of learning process, then they will store the misconception in their mind. All right. So later on, after they store that, okay, so they can recognition, they can reproduce it in another context. Okay, so when they really understand, store that understanding in their memory, they can apply in other types of problem, in other contexts, in other courses that relate with that knowledge. So you just imagine if number 2, we didn't check on that, then it will go wrong until number 3 and number 4. Okay, so this is about the learning process. Okay. To get this kind of things, all right, we need to understand how one's learn. So I use how people learn framework to understand one's learning. So this how people learn framework has 4 lenses. Okay, the first lens is about learner-centered. So learner-centered is actually, we need to consider understanding of our students' knowledge, skill levels, and interest that learners bring into the classroom. All right, so we need to understand our students' prior knowledge when they join our class. Okay, the second one is knowledge-centered. Okay, knowledge-centered, we need to make sure that when we deliver something in our class, right, that one is not to where the students can simply memorizing that. Okay, so as an educator, we need to provide depth of study and incorporates the teaching of metacognitive strategies. It's not just when we enter the class, we just give the lecture and then the students need to memorize everything that we give to them, right? It's not like that, right? We need to provide that of knowledge. The third one or the third lens is assessment-centered. Okay, assessment-centered can be considered 2 types of assessment, the summative and the formative assessment, right? We can say that formative assessment is more helpful to make the learning happen, all right? Because the summative assessment is actually during the midterm or at the end where we want to evaluate our course. So learning is actually happen when we provide opportunities to our students to revise and improve their thinking. Okay, and another one that help our students to get that learning process is the community-centered, right? The 4 lenses of HPL. Where in the community-centered, as an educator, we need to make sure that our environment in class is safe. Okay, when the students feel safe in our class, they have comfort question, they have they comfort to give their idea. They don't care if they do something wrong. Okay, so this is the level where we say that the students safe in our classroom. So these 4 lenses is very important for us to make that learning process happen. Okay, so let's take a look how one construct a new knowledge. Okay, so we can consider 3 stages. Okay, the first one, now, present. Okay, what happened now? Okay, so the now is here. Okay, so this is now in our class. Okay, let's say this is our class. we need to consider what happened in the past. Okay, in the knowledge-centered, in the learner-centered, we need to consider the prior knowledge of our students, okay? Where during the past, we need to know their context, their personal, their social life, because this actually give our students experience to develop their knowledge, right? So this past knowledge need to be connected to the knowledge that we want to deliver in our class, okay? So this kind of organization is very important. When we understand their prior knowledge, then we can organize our material of teaching, and then we can design our scaffolding method to let the previous knowledge of our students can be connected to the current knowledge that we want to deliver to them. Here in the scaffolding, we can use AI actually. Okay, so Gen AI can be here to scaffold the students for them to construct a new knowledge. So this is what happened in one's learning, right? So each students in our class construct their knowledge based on this kind of process, okay? So let's take a look at the constructive alignment. Okay, we already discussed, I think previously I went there, discussed about the OBE, about the outcome-based learning. So I'm going to talk about the instructional learning outcome, the ILO. Okay, it's about what should learners know or be able to do, how will the learners learn, and how will learning be measured. So these three things should be aligned so that the students can engage with our context. Okay, so we need to understand about the outcome. Okay, so the first, we know that we have the PEO, we have the PLO, we have the course learning outcome. Okay, so I want to address on this course learning outcome because this is what happened in our class. Okay, so course learning outcome, in one class, normally in our practice in UTM, we will have 3 to 5 learning outcomes only for that course, that particular course. And for each course learning outcome, we will have the instructional learning outcome, the ILO. All right, let's say the CLO number 1, you need 3 times meeting with the students. Okay, so you are going to design your 3 ILO. Okay, so the CLO 1, for example, you need 3 weeks to meet with them to achieve that CLO 1. So each meeting, you need to have that instructional learning outcome. Okay, so to develop this instructional learning outcome, in my case, I use bookends method. All right, so bookend approach is my method of designing my class. So as you can see in this figure, okay, there are 3 sessions in the bookend methods, right? The first one is AO, the 5-minute start of the class, AO, advanced organizing. And then this is the middle, okay, you have lecture. And then in the middle of the lecture is about 5-minute discussion. And then the last section is the summary. Okay, so advanced organizer, normally in my class, I use this to get prior knowledge students. Okay, because I believe that prior knowledge students is very important for me to connect with things that I'm going to deliver to them. Right, so formulate, share, and listen, repeated every 10 to 12 minutes. This one is very important because the concentration in learning will, I can say, deteriorate for after 15 minutes. So we need to have something to spark them in the middle. So 10-5, 10-5 is a good strategy. Okay, and then the last one is the session summary, where normally I use this session summary to make sure that the learning outcome or the outcome that I want to achieve during that session achieve. Okay, this is what I call as the ILO, instructional learning outcome. All right, so that ILO need to be achieved. If not, the misconception from this class will be bring to the next class, right? So this is how I try to make sure that the misconception, the students didn't bring the misconception to the next class. Okay. So advanced organizer is the most important single factor influencing learning is what the learner already knows. All right. So refer back to the HPL. Okay. So the learner-centered lens. And then the formulate, share, listen, and create is actually to promote active participation, collaboration, and creativity. Because there is a theory saying that when the students do more, they can remember better. Okay. And then the session summary to reinforce learning and clarify the misunderstanding. Okay. In any activity, I use this educational principle by Vygotsky. The name of this principle is zone proximal development. So we need to identify our students' ability. That's why prior knowledge is very important. They need to be in this zone proximal development, right? If we give something where the students is already know, then that will be too easy for them. When it's too easy for them, sometimes they just ignore it. All right, they just take for granted for that. And if you are doing a group session and you give the instruction or problem or something, fall in this zone, all right, I can say that the group work doesn't happen. All right, because what? Because if they think that they can do by themselves, then they will do it by themselves, right? But if we give something too hard for them, then I can say that will be give them I can say demotivated, right? So we need to make sure that things that we design, things that we give to them fall under this zone. Okay. So how can you know that? By doing assessment, right? So assessment can be divided into two, summative and formative assessment. The summative assessment is assessment of learning. This assessment is actually, we want to assess how much have students learned at a point in time. Normally, this one is counted. This assessment counted and that will be translated into the grade, right? Another assessment is a formative assessment. Assessment for and as learning. Okay. In the assessment centered under HPL framework, we consider this most because of what? Assessment for learning is actually for us, educator. Okay. When we get feedback from our students, we can assess our instructional design. From that, we can improve. So assessment for learning is actually to improve the way we teach, okay, the way we design our classroom. While assessment as learning is actually for students, right, where they can use that information to improve the quality of learning. So that kind of assessment can help the student to have the self-regulated learning. Okay, so they can reflect on themselves. So this is what we call as a metacognitive. Okay, so formative assessment is very important to help achieve this summative assessment, right? Because this summative assessment will reflect later on our outcome in our OBE documentation, because this will be documented in our documentation for the CQI. Normally this one for formative assessment is for us, educator, all right, to assess either the students have misconception or not, or something like that. So this one is kept by our own self, right? So this educational principle, I can say, can be used or without technology and with technology. Okay, so this is the basic educational principle that we should know as an educator. So next, I'm going to explain with you when we want to integrate technology into our classroom, there is another educational principle that we need to understand, where this one is very important for us to help us to design our class with the technology. Okay, the framework for the technology to integrate technology in our classroom is called technological, pedagogical, content, knowledge. So there are several lenses here. Okay, you can see that there's a complicated things, right? There is a complicated thing. So it's not just, okay, to integrate technology, okay, we can just use. No, it's about how we design our classroom. If not, learning won't happen, and both sides, students or lecturer, will think that I do a lot of things, but students still can't get the knowledge, right? So learning doesn't happen. Okay, so this is what actually happened in most of engineering students, right? They try many things and then they mention that, at the end, the students cannot achieve. Okay. So that's why educational principle is very important. So as you can see here, when we talk about the pedagogical and the technological, okay, so this technology is to be used to integrate, to help learning happen in our classroom. Okay, however, when we talk about the technology that is overlapped with the content knowledge, this one is actually about the software that we use in our classroom. Okay, to help the students to understand our specialization of study, our field of study. So as you can see here, when things are, what we call it, overlap with each other. So when we use technology in our classroom, we need to know how we can deliver that. All right. So this is the difference when the technology overlap with the way of method, teaching method, and then technology overlap with content. So this is how we need to make a difference and make a clear design later on. So to use technology, I listed here 3 things that I think we need to think of, right, during our design. The first one is the technological knowledge. Okay, if the students or educator, we need to know how to interact with the machines effectively. I use word machine because it's about things that we use. All right, in the tablet, in the software that inside the tablet. So it can be used to technology to help the students to understand our context of learning, or things that we can use to help them to deliver the content. Okay, so there are 2 different things there. So it's a big what we call it, scope there. Okay, the second one is the pedagogical knowledge. All right, where the educators need to know how to make to design our class, and then while the students need to know how they can reflect their own self to make learning happen. And then the third one, where the educator and the student should know how to understand, be able to understand, justify, and evaluate results generated by the intelligent machine. So in this case, AI. Okay, because as an educator, we need to know how to do this, because this one need to be transferred to our students later on. Okay, so tips to design, I listed here 4. Okay, the first one, state the intended outcome or the instructional outcome. And then the second one, need to take a look our learning environment. Okay, when we want to design something, we need to know the size of the class, the environment of the class. And then the assessment task, where to give the assessment and what type of assessment, right? And then the grading or the criteria, the rubrics that we will use to judge the students' performance. So this is a simple design tips that I can give to you. All right, so based on this educational principle, based on these tips, I design my class. All right, and I'm going to share with you how I use the generative AI to support my daily life as academic tasks. And for your information, I subscribe ChatGPT. Okay, it's about $20 a month. I can say now ChatGPT is my personal assistant. All right, so every creating, I can say, my own practice in the classroom. So I use Gen AI to design my classroom, to produce various examples, to provide explanations, to provide multiple explanation, to develop questions for assessment, and to assess students' learning. How I'm doing this? I have my own ChatGPT chatbot. Okay, so I developed my own chatbot named Engineering Educator Advisor. So this is my own chatbot. So you can see by Efiana, right? If I share the link with someone else, so they can use this one. Okay, I'm going to share this one at the end of the session later on. Okay, so I'm going to skip this because actually I prepare question, but the time is limited here. So I'm going directly share my experience. Okay, so this I'm going to share my own instructional design. Okay, so based on this, okay, there are 5 strategy that I use. Okay, so I'm going to explain one by one. Okay, so start with the instructional design. So this one from the course data communication and networks programming. Okay, so this is the instructional learning outcome. This is not course learning outcome. Okay, there is one course learning outcome. So this one is actually for 2 hours class. Okay, so to achieve that course learning outcome, one of the class I need to do this. So I designed this one. So after this 2 hour, I expect that my students can describe the concept of data communication with real life application. So this is what I am expecting from my students after that 2 hours class. Okay, so
Halo, Dr. Yana.
hello, I think I was left. All right, so I'm going to share again. Okay. All right. Okay, so after I identify what type of assessment that I'm going to get from the students, I design the teaching and learning activity. Okay, so the teaching and learning activity is the individual searching information, pair discussion, and group discussion. Okay, so from here, theoretically, I said that, okay, this outcome will be achieved. Okay, so to develop this one, so now I know this is my outcome, and this is my teaching and learning, and this is my assessment task. So using ChatGPT, okay, I asked ChatGPT to develop my instruction for that class. So this is how I use my bot to help me. All right. So this is one example where Gen AI can help us to develop the instructional design. Okay. But we need to identify the alignment first. So from that, you can give the instruction to the ChatGPT or any generative AI that you use to provide a good design for you. And then you can just ask again and again to get the best one for you. Okay, the next one is provide various example. Okay, so what I did in my class, okay, I normally teach a concept to my students. Okay. Right, so let's say, okay, this is my slide. Okay, the outcome is to make sure that the students can describe, okay, the data communication in their real life. So I don't want to think, okay, because I can say quite busy. So yeah, AI helped me. So I just asked AI, provide 5 examples of socket programming application. So give me a sample here. Okay. All right. So assessment is another bot that I developed in ChatGPT. So why 5 example? Because I have 4 groups in my class, so I give 1 extra. So from here, okay, this one group number 1 choose this, what we call it, this application. So I put here. So this is the guided question that I give to my students, right? Because we need to give this one to them. Okay, so that's why we need to identify assessment that we're expecting from them. If you just give this one, okay, without this guided question, you didn't bring them to the direction to achieve that course learning outcome. All right? Because it's too broad. The discussion can be in any context, right? So guided question is very important. This is what we call as a formative assessment. Okay. Network programming subject. Okay, you can see that when this one, if I'm not mistaken, I give a team for the students. It's a maths team. So this one is individual. My instruction at that time, I mentioned to them, okay, the team is mathematics. So you need to create any code, okay, with the help of generative AI that give different operation from your friends. So each of them have their own function of a maths function. For example, this one, calculate the factorial, multi-threading of additional and multiplication. Okay, so after that, what they need to do is they need to make a comparison and make analysis, right, about the multi-threading. So from here, they need to identify the characteristic of multi-threading. Okay, so this is how I focus more on the higher order thinking when I integrate AI in my classroom. Okay, so another one with that various example, okay, the students can bring it or to give an analogy in the actual activity. Okay, so multi-processing, multi-threading, so they visualize with this kind of things, right? When they can come up to this level, I can say that easy for them to remember and to explain later on in their test or final. Okay, because this one is actually store. Now I can say up to the store. The learning process is already stored. Okay. So this is how I use ChatGPT or generative AI to provide various examples so that I can focus on higher order thinking. So now my class design is to increase the higher order thinking. Okay, compared to previous activity, I need to find books, article from the internet, okay, to create that example to be used in my classroom. Okay, so another example is provide multiple explanation. Okay, multiple explanation normally I use to give feedback to my students. Okay, so one of the formative assessment, giving feedback to the students. Okay, so this is the students' feedback. Normally I will ask students feedback weekly. Okay, so you can see that from this feedback, you can see this is the critical that I need to reflect to them. Okay, so the strategy. So based on this, I need to again check their prior knowledge, and then I can say that to prompt. This strategies is a strategy to prompt to get the multiple explanation. Okay, to support these 2 students because they don't really understand things that I want them to get. So I can say that these 2 students didn't get the outcome. Okay, the outcome not achieved by these 2 students because they ask things that can say that they really they can't describe it yet. Okay, so first you need to identify these 2 students, okay, so that you can you can understand their prior knowledge, then their prior knowledge should be included in the prompt. And then you need to provide a simple to complex instruction to the Gen AI. And then you need to provide organizational cue to the Gen AI and provide analogies. All right. And then of course, to put these two comment in the prompt as well. Then the ChatGPT provide this kind of things to me. Okay. So why I ask in terms of analogy, so that the students can easily imagine things that abstract, because things that I try to explain to them, the concept that I try to explain to them is something abstract. So I try to make it like a door, opening a door, analogy as opening a door to help them to imagine that. All right. So this is how I use Gen AI to provide multiple explanation. Another one, to develop question for assessment. Okay. Previously I spent a lot of time developing questions, because I can say that every semester I receive a new subject to teach. All right. So I spend a lot of time because I don't have that bank question. That's the reason why I spend a lot of time to develop the question for assessment. But once the AI comes, all right, so I can use AI to help me to develop questions. Normally, I use this one for the formative assessment, short question, true and false. Okay. If you still remember the bookend approach after 10 minutes, 5 minutes discussion, right? Okay, so during that 5-minute discussion, I use this kind of question. Okay, so I can be more creative, okay, because I can provide a lot of questions that I can change. All right, so we can have a lot of bank questions. Okay, so this is how we can use ChatGPT or Gen AI to help in developing questions for the formative assessment. Okay, another one I use to assess students' learning. Okay, so from the students' feedback, okay, this one is a PDF. Okay, I show to you this one. I think this one is quite old, using Bing. Okay, feedback I receive in our UTM e-learning. So that one is in PDF. So I upload PDF in Bing. During that time, because during that time I try to compare Bing and ChatGPT. That's why I have example with Bing. Okay, so Bing give me, I asked the prompt is, I want to understand my students in the class. Summarize 3 key areas that student most understand, and 3 key areas that they have confusion from this PDF file. Okay, then the AI provide key of understanding and key of confusion. So I know I can make a summary. Okay. Previously, I need to read all the feedback weekly, right? So it's save my time in assessing my students' learning using Gen AI. Okay, so same things. Okay, this one I used ChatGPT 4 at that time. I think this one is in 2023 example. Okay, I started using AI in 2023. Okay, another one, assessing students' learning, student assignment. Okay, so I have a PDF file. I upload, in this case, I think I upload 2 PDF file. So I ask the generative AI to provide me understanding level. So create any relevant graph for the comparison, because by having this graphical representation, easy for me to capture the understanding level of students. All right, so this is how I use generative AI to help me read students' assignment. Okay, so another one, using class point, formative assessment using class point. I think last month I presented one paper, how I use class point for the formative assessment, and Alhamdulillah, I received Best Paper Award for this paper. Okay, so this is what I use. So you can see how I use AI to make a summary when I ask can see that okay, this one is actually checking my students' prior knowledge. Okay, so this is during AO, Advanced Organizing, 5-minute activity. Okay, and then I got this one. Then I received this one in email report. Class point giving me a report. Okay, so this is the what we call it AI that I have in the class point. I can say this one is a recent AI in class point. Previously, class point didn't have that AI. So when I have 60 students, I need to read one by one. But now I just ask this class point to help me to summarize using AI. Okay. Okay, how many participants answer data as information? So I asked the AI in the class point to what we call it, to detect the misconception. All right, then the class point lists the students, the names of the students here. All right, so when you get the student's name here, don't directly ask the student during the class, okay? Because we need to remember the HPL, the community centered. All right, make sure that we need to keep our class environment to be in the safe environment. All right, so you just keep and identify this student. Right. So during the class activity, get approach. Okay, when you go around in the class, okay, take a look at what they are doing. Okay, so this is how we can help the students. Okay, we don't want them to feel awkward or shy, something like that. Okay, so that's why it's very important to make sure that community centered happen in our classroom. Okay, based on this activity, these are the things that the students I can say love with the activity. Okay, fun quizzes, open-ended answer to question but still reliable. Okay, answering question anonymously is very important so that the community or the student feels safe in our class. Okay. Okay, this is an example where I use the image, right? So the students can submit their calculation here. And then you can see that, okay, this student is wrong, the student is wrong. So the outcome didn't achieve. So I need to make sure that this thing need to be solved before I proceed to the next chapter or the next subtopic. If not, the misconception or misunderstanding here will be bring to the next session or next class. And we will have trouble, okay? Okay, so these are the things how I use AI to help me. Okay, and for information, I have my own chatbot. So this one is Educator Chatbot. So I name it Engineering Educator Advisor Bot. Okay, so when I use this one, you can see this is the first question. How can I align my assessment with OBE principle? What fun strategy can I use to apply constructive alignment? Okay, because I developed this bot, so I already trained this bot with the all the principles that I explained at the beginning of my session. Okay, so let's say I click this one. So this then the bot will give me this kind of thing. So you can see that, okay, these are the principle that the bot have. And then it gives step by step, okay, for the instructional design. Okay, for the students, okay, Net Engineering Assessment Bot. This one is created for network engineering. Okay, so custom GPT for generating network engineering. So this one is directly for very specific to the network programming class. Okay, so the student can use this bot for their learning activity. Okay, you can see that where they can share this one. I asked them to share this one. All right, so I can get their link and I can observe their activity. Because I designed this bot to provide multiple choice question true false question and short answer, because I just want to check their understanding. Okay, actually I add because yesterday I contacted Pak Rizky, mentioned that I add something in my slide. Allow me to continue or I need to stop now?
Silakan dilanjutkan, Dokter.
Okay. Alright, terima kasih. Okay, so this one, another activity that I can show how I make sure that the constructive alignment happen in my classroom. So the activity is pair, think, share activity. Okay. Okay, I take a same, what we call it, example from the previous one. Okay, when I explain about the instructional design. Okay, so previously, before I integrate AI in my classroom, okay, I designed this kind of CA, okay. What I did was, I just explained about this one. Okay, so I explained about this one and then I asked my student to have this kind of activity, think, pair, share. So after I explain, the student needs to think. Means that I ask the question for them, then they need to think individually. Okay, after that, they need to have a pair. Okay, to share their thought, and after that, I can ask for any volunteer, or I can just randomly pick any students if there is no volunteer. Okay, so this is what happened before I integrate AI in my classroom. Okay, so after I implement a bot that I designed for my classroom, from the think, pair, share, I name it as a pair, think, share. Okay, why I use pair, think, share? Okay, the first one, I pose this question to the students, and this one is the individual task. Okay, so to achieve the outcome, I ask the students, how can you relate the TCP/IP with real life application? And you are allowed to use generative AI. So I allowed students to use generative AI, or they can use bot that I designed for the class. This one is individual task. After that, okay, so this is what I call as a pair. Because now, even though this one is the individual task, there is actually pair with AI. Alright, so this is why I name it a pair here. Okay, then think. After they make a pairing with AI, generative AI, they need to think. Alright, so discuss with your neighbor your thing. You are allowed to use generative AI. Okay, so they need to turn to the next neighbor and discuss. Why I mentioned that thing will happen here, because even though they post this kind of question in their generative AI, they will get different answer compared to the neighbor. Okay, so thing will happen here. All right. Then they need to share. Okay, so finalize your answer. Okay, normally this one, I ask them to, from the pair, they need to join 3 to 5 members in a group. At this moment, they need to put away their handphone. They need to put away their tablet. They can't use any AI when the phase of finalizing their answer. The reason is I want to make sure that they know how to evaluate the data that they get. Okay, still remember things to ponder, number 3. Okay, how they can identify the data, how they can evaluate and make final decision. So during final decision, I can say haram to use any AI. Okay, so this is how I design my class when I integrate AI. Okay, here I want to show to you the things that I identify from my students, okay? This is the question that I posted. And normally the students just take that questions and put it in their generative AI. Okay, so Bing, This one output from Bing, this one output from ChatGPT. Okay. This one I can say quite old because this first activity was in 2023. So when they post this one, it is actually not the things that I want from them, because this one is not my expecting, my things that I expect from them, because this one is not answering the course learning outcome or the intended learning outcome during that class. So if they just give this kind of answer to me, it means that the outcome is not achieved. All right. When they do that activity and I identify what's problem, so I try to guide. All right. So this kind of thing is very important. Things that we plan might not same when we try to implement in our classroom. So we need to have, I think this one is by experience. All right, it's by experience. Okay, so we need to have a plan B, backup plan. Okay, so from here, just to change the real life to a very specific application. If you still remember my previous slide, I show 5 examples that I created from the AI. Okay, web browsing, Telegram, and so on. So they need to change this one to a very specific application. All right, so this is where I can teach my students, all right, to evaluate what they get from the Gen AI and how they should prompt it. Okay, prompting. The way they prompt is very important because that is actually the real things that we need that reflect their current knowledge. That's why when they use my bot, I want them to share the link so that I can see their prompt, because their prompting is actually the original, what we call it, knowledge that they have. All right. So the process is very important when we integrate AI in our classroom. Okay, after that, of course, they need to present their group note. Okay, still remember they need to have a group note. It's only one page. Okay, this one front page, and then the second page is actually this one, because I want them just to illustrate that. Okay, when they can illustrate that, means that they can understand. Okay. So ethical consideration and challenges. Okay. We need to educate our student, right? So never let your students use AI without clear expectation. Okay. And then design integrated reflective activities such as comparing AI generated answer with students' own reasoning to develop critical thinking. And then provide scaffolding on how to craft effective prompt, validate AI output, and use AI to support rather than replace thinking. So these are the things that I can say implement during the pair, think, share activity. Okay, so the conclusion that I can make when I integrate AI in my classroom, Gen AI has demonstrated to be a game changer in teaching and learning. And then its ability to collect and analyze real-time data provide invaluable support for differentiated instructions that enable to personalize learning experience. And no misconception were carried over by the students to the following session. So this is very important because we don't want the misconception carried over. So I think that's all. Thank you.
Baik, terima kasih kepada Dr. Riana yang telah menyampaikan banyak materi yang memberikan pengetahuan, menambah keilmuan bagi kita. Cukup lengkap, mulai dari prinsip sampai ChatGPT menjadi personal assistant dari Dr. Riana. Baik, diberi kesempatan kepada audiens untuk bertanya. Mungkin kita masih ada waktu sekitar 15 menit maksimal sebelum kita selesaikan webinar kali ini. Silakan bisa raise hand bagi yang mau bertanya, atau juga bisa melalui kolom chat ya, jika ingin bertanya juga nanti akan dibacakan. Silakan kepada audiens. Baik, dipersilakan Prof. Daniel.
Baik, terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Thank you. I really like your tips number 3. Okay. Maybe you could put it back. Tips number 3. Okay. I've tried using AI. Can I just speak bahasa Indonesia or? Okay. Jadi saya sudah coba menggunakan ChatGPT tapi versi gratis ya. Karena sudah banyak mahasiswa yang menjawab atau mengerjakan assignment using ChatGPT. Okay. So as a professor, I don't want to be left behind by my students. So I taught them in the class how to use the right prompt. Okay. I give them examples. I give them an assignment to solve in the class using ChatGPT, and later I show them how to answer the question. There are 4 questions, and they're trying to answer a question using ChatGPT with different prompt. Okay, and it's end up 2 of the 4 questions answered right by ChatGPT, and 2 of the other answers answered right by the DeepSeek. And then after that, I explained to them how to solve the problem using by the books. Okay, by the books. And then after that, I told them, this is how you use AI. Never trust it 100%, because the answers is depend on how you prompt the AI. You have to explain to them, because if you don't give the right prompt, you won't get the right answers. Okay, so that's why I like this one, your tips number 3. Okay. My question is, how do we know if the student answer all our the tasks that we ask them, not just using AI, but we need for them to put their creative thinking also on answering the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Daniel. Okay, saya rasa saya suka perkongsian Prof. Okay, tentang apa kita kata, apabila ada 2 daripada 4 yang menjawabnya betul kan. Jadi sebenarnya pelajar dapat, tak boleh rely 100%, betul kan? Pengalaman mengajar mereka. Okey, untuk menjawab soalannya, bagaimana kita nak memastikan pelajar itu tidak menggunakan ke Prof? Ataupun nak memastikan critical thinking itu berlaku ataupun creative thinking itu berlaku?
Ya. Yeah.
Okey. Kalau tanya saya guna yang pair, think, share itu. Jadi saya tidak mengatakan you tak boleh menggunakan AI, sebab kita pun menggunakan AI, betul? Nanti bila pelajar tu pun keluar dari universiti, semua akan menggunakan AI. Cuma menjadi caranya bagaimana AI itu boleh digunakan dengan sebetulnya. Jadi kalau tanya saya bagaimana critical thinking ataupun creative thinking itu berlaku, yang tadi aktiviti pair, think and share. So
Oke, terima
randomly.
kasih.
Di
Oke, thank you.
akhirnya nanti randomly untuk select student explain. Jadi dia bila aktiviti tu kadang-kadang dia macam tadi kan kita kata learning tu is about a change that sustainable change kan. Pada awal-awal kelas penggunaan itu kita kena selalu checking on that. Sehingga dia menjadi biasanya 3 ke 4 minggu yang pertama dalam kuliah itu. Kemudian dia akan menjadi habit. Bila habit tu tak adalah selalu sangat kita checking. Itulah saya punya tips.
Oke, terima kasih.
Ya,
Baik,
sama-sama.
terima kasih Prof. Daniel. Ada pair, think, share ya. Nanti rekamannya ada. Baik, selanjutnya Prof. Fili diberikan waktu dan kesempatan, Prof.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nursad. It's very interesting presentation of you, but I think it's very difficult to do it in the classroom. I was wondering, how do you know or how do you assess the prior knowledge of the students? Sometimes I was so angry in the class because the students do not want to struggle or to understand, or they just keep quiet and so on. So how can we evaluate their prior knowledge? So yeah, it makes me angry when I deliver something, they don't pay attention or just copy and paste from the AI what I need them to do in the classroom or for the discussion. So how do you cope with that?
Okay. I use class point, Prof.
Hmm.
I give you mana yang tadi? Alright. So as you can see here, okay, this one is my slide. Okay. Ini adalah kuliah saya yang pertama ketika itu. Tajuknya data communication. Alright. So you can see that I asked them what is data. Saya nak tengok sebenarnya apa yang mereka faham data itu sebelum saya masukkan kepada data communication. Ini contoh I assess their prior knowledge. Alright, so in 1 hour class, so this kind of activity akan menjadi kita kata dalam 5 minutes activity. Okay, ini one example. Another example, kalau saya nak mengajar litar, for example, okay, electrical circuit. Okay, benda yang simple yang saya akan bagi satu gambar perintang, arah arus, dan saya akan tanya arah voltage, ataupun negatif ataupun positif voltage. Selalunya prior knowledge ni saya akan kaitkan dengan konsep yang saya nak sampaikan pada kelas ketika itu. Itu my tips. Adakah saya menjawab soalan?
Yeah. And the end, how can you give, I mean, that to evaluate, we should give a mark, a score for the final evaluation because we need the score. How can you do that?
Okay.
So, a lot of this.
Okay, we go back to the assessment. Ada 2 types of assessment kan? Okay, sekejap. Saya tutup. Okay, assessment ada 2 jenis. Right, okay. Yang banyak yang saya tunjukkan tadi sebenarnya dia adalah formative assessment. Assessment yang tidak digunakan untuk mengukur grade pelajar. Assessment yang summative ni adalah assessment of learning. Assessment of learning ni datangnya dari quiz yang saya ambil markah. Okay, sebab dalam kelas saya ada quiz yang saya tak ambil markah. Bila mana quiz itu saya tak ambil markah, saya consider dia sebagai formative assessment. Okay, kenapa? Quiz tu adalah untuk assess student knowledge pada ketika itu sebelum kita move kepada next section. But that quiz I didn't use untuk pengiraan markah. Okay, normally yang quiz yang macam tu biasanya bila mana saya guna flip classroom. Maksudnya, okay, saya bagi video, minta pelajar ni tengok video sebelum masuk kelas. So kadang-kadang saya assess prior knowledge tu before masuk kelas. Normally yang itu berlaku pada minggu pertama. Contoh, bila mengajar subjek yang banyak melibatkan matematik. Okay, so saya akan bagi soalan konsep, tak banyak pun, dalam 5 ke 10 yang kadang-kadang hanya true or false sahaja. Okay, soalan konsep tu saya akan bagi, lepas tu ada video dan sebagainya, benda tu saya minta dibuat sebelum masuk kelas. Okay. Di hari kejadian, di hari kelas itu, 50 minit yang pertama tu, 5 minit yang pertama untuk advanced organizer. Kalau kita ikut bukan approach tu, 5 minit yang pertama untuk advanced organizer tu sebenarnya saya bagi pop quiz. Saya tak bagi tahu pelajar yang saya akan ada quiz pada ketika itu. Sebenarnya pop quiz itu untuk assess knowledge yang kita sebelum dia masuk kelas kan. Okay. Jadi something yang kita nak grade untuk summative assessment ni, pelajar perlu dimaklumkan lebih awal. Itu ethical kita kan. Jadi quiz mana yang pop quiz tu saya masukkan sebagai formative assessment. Biasanya iaitu saya akan buat 3 ke 4 minggu awal. Okay, supaya student dia jadi habit yang bila mana saya minta dia baca ataupun dia tengok sebelum kelas, dia perlu buat. Kalau tak buat macam itu, sebenarnya pelajar tak tengok pun video yang kita ni. Bila dia dapat pop quiz tu, dia sebenarnya psikologi je. Macam itu. Adakah saya menjawab, Prof?
Yes. Thank you very much, Dokter.
Okay.
Terima kasih, Pak Rizky.
Terima kasih, Prof. Baik, selanjutnya masih ada tersisa sekitar 3 menit bagi yang mau bertanya.
I want to ask Pak Rizky.
Siap, silakan, Prof. Siap.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I cannot switch on my camera, my video. Thank you so much for this very, very wonderful presentations. I was very enlightened in this case. I have a statement before about the OBE, outcome-based education systems, because I know ChatGPT serves as an intelligent assessment tool. My question is how to integrate ChatGPT into this framework, which can involve leveraging its capabilities to assess, provide feedback, and support students' learning activities. Thank you so much.
Baik, terima kasih Bapak Ari Nafril. Prof. Ari Nafril, silakan.
Okey, terima kasih Prof. Sekejap saya mudah lagi saya sekejap Untuk assessment kan?
Yes, assessment, but by using ChatGPT as a very, very best tool to assess.
Okay. Alright.
In of OBE.
Okay. Kalau melihat kepada OBE, constructive alignment ini adalah application dalam OBE. Okay, kita ada outcome, kita ada teaching and learning activities dan juga kita ada assessment. Alright.
Right.
So, bila mana kita ada ketiga-tiga ini, okay, saya akan dapatkan assessment ini. Okay, in this case, yang ini group note, saya minta pelajar presentkan tadi kalau sampel saya itu. Okay, antara lain yang saya buat adalah, sekejap. Ini assessing student learning di sini. Okay. Kalau boleh, kalau bisa dilihat di sini feedback pada pelajar. Okay, to assess the students' learning, okay, I asked ChatGPT, alright, because this one is a feedback from my students, okay, things that I asked them to reflect what they have learned. Okay, so I upload the PDF. The assessment is the board that I created by my own in ChatGPT. So, need to summarize the 3 points students found most important and 3 areas of confusion. So, this is how the board can help me to assess my students' learning. Okay, so this is one example. Okay, another one is student assignment. Okay, I asked the ChatGPT to compare the files in terms of Wireshark usage. So this is the tool that they need to use during the assignment. Okay, so the comparison is between 2 groups. In this case, 2 groups. Okay, so the bot helped me to what we call it, to make assessment. Okay, you can translate from this data, from the words, into these graphical things. Okay, so that I can easily identify that, okay, in terms of the protocol analysis, why these three things only? Because these are the three concepts that I asked in the assignment. Okay, because the three concepts is things that I'm going to assess to achieve the outcome of the course. Okay, so from here I can see that, okay, in terms of protocol analysis knowledge, both two groups are equivalent, same. However, group number 2, okay, so another group number green, okay, group number green, group with the green color can perform better because this group can explain better in the three-way handshake and IP header analysis compared to another group. So this is how the bot, the ChatGPT bot helped me in assessing students' learning. And I answering your question, Prof.
Gimana Prof Arin April?
Yes, very clear, very clear. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very helpful for me. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, most welcome.
Baik, terima kasih. Nah, waktu sudah menunjukkan pukul 4 waktu Indonesia. Bila tidak ada lagi pertanyaan dari Bapak Ibu, saya mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Dr. Yana Nurzal Eviana binti Ghazali yang telah memberikan banyak pengetahuan dan ilmu kepada kita, bahkan yang bertanya pada prof-prof semua. Selanjutnya saya serahkan kepada
Pak
MC.
Rizky.
Ya, siap Prof.
Pak Rizky, can I have a kind of request from Dr. Nurzal Eviana? I actually would like to propose this event to university to invite you. I think we need practice. Is it right? For education, yeah. So not by virtual webinar. So I should propose first, especially for the budget to the university. So maybe later you can let Pak Rizky know about a short of information regarding this AI for educators, or how many days that you need, or how many hours about the program. So I can propose to director of our university so to prepare the budget. So not for agriculture, faculty of agriculture, maybe for all of the faculty in the Siriwijaya University, because this is very important. Like or dislike, we should need AI for as our assistant for teaching. But during this webinar, we need I understand only a little bit, but not. I mean that do the practice, practice. For example, how you design actually and so on. So a kind of workshop, not virtually but on site. Okay. So Pak Rizky nanti bisa minta keterangan sedikit dari Bu Yana, ya. Kita mengundang kalau nggak ada dana this year, maybe next year, ya Bu Yana. We invite. I hope you can come to Unsri. So yeah, we can practice, not via Zoom but on site. So I hope you can give a short the information about that. Not including the airfare. The airfare we can handle it, accommodation airfare, but only for this program. How many days, how many hours? Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Yana.
Baik, terima kasih Prof. Ili. Dr. Yana mohon izin, sepertinya akan merepotkan kembali tidak hanya Fakultas Pertanian atau agriculture engineering tadi program saja, sepertinya Sri membutuhkan apa yang disampaikan oleh Dr. Yana. Mudah-mudahan nanti bisa discuss, minta kesediaan waktu karena ini sangat penting. Mudah-mudahan ya Dr. Yana nanti kita bisa diskusikan bersama, dan tentu lihat kesempatan waktu dan waktu luang, waktu kosong buat Dr. Yana bisa kembali ke Palembang. Baik, selanjutnya terima kasih Dr. Yana. Selanjutnya kalau tidak ada lagi pertanyaan, saya serahkan kepada MC untuk menutup kegiatan acara. Sebelumnya kita berikan aplaus kepada Dr. Nurzal Eviana binti Ghazali yang telah berkesempatan hadir dan memberikan banyak manfaat ilmu kepada kita. Terima kasih. Saya sebagai moderator mengucapkan alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Mrs. Nurul Asiana.
Terima kasih kerana mengundang.
Okay. Thank you to our speaker
Ya,
and
menarik
moderator
sekali,
for the
tapi
insightful.
perlu latihan.
Perlu latihan, ya, to practice.
InsyaAllah bisa. Mungkin nanti saya boleh bagi beberapa macam mana nak cakap sebab nanti akan bergantung kepada bajet kan. Jadi kalau satu
Yes,
hari
yes, yes.
apa workshop yang saya boleh bagi, kalau 2 hari apa
Hmm.
workshop. Kalau longgarnya boleh sehingga develop board.
Oke.
Siap.
Okay, thank you to our speaker and moderator for the insightful session. That concludes our webinar for today. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to the speaker, moderator, and all participants for joining and contributing to this event. We hope today's knowledge sharing will help us enhance the quality of teaching and learning in the future. See you next time in another exciting session. I am Muhammad Eka Mubarak as the MC today. Would like to say thank you and see you again. Good afternoon and stay healthy, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Nurzal.
Terima kasih.
Dr. Yana.
Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih. Selalu sehat. Waalaikumsalam. Sehat selalu.
Terima kasih, Bapak Ibu.
Terima kasih. Izin live.